Hi, everybody. This is Joanne Eisen with J&J. Wrong hat. Sorry. Reach the Unlimited. That's my day job. I was just telling Becky I had a very stressful situation just before this. So I'm coming out of this and everything's good. So I'm so happy that you're all here and thank you for joining us. I would like to welcome my guest today to Reach the Unlimited, Becky Hastelin. How do you say your last name?
Hasseltine.
Hasseltine. And
Becky Hasseltine.
Hasseltine. Becky, you have been so patient with me. I have never been late for my show, and this was the day that I did, and I was on your watch. I am so sorry. And then I did prepare you well enough. Thank you for being with us and for being patient.
Absolutely. No problem. Glad to be here.
Do you want to introduce yourself to everybody? Tell everybody a little about who you are?
Yes. First of all, that's such a big question. Who am I? But I'll just share a few things. I'm an evidential spiritual medium, and I am also an intuitive healer. I'm also a mother of 2 sweet children and a wife, and I live in Eagle, Colorado, a little small mountain town outside of Vail. And I never really knew I was always going to be a medium. It's something that just happened in my life in 2016. And I have just a journey with it and things that I've learned along the way throughout my life and what landed me into mediumship. And for those that don't know what a medium is or an intuitive healer, so I connect with loved ones in spirit and able to get those very specific pieces, what we call evidence of who they were, that you knew them to be. Very specific information that your loved one would want you to know, so you have an understanding of who the spirit was, or is, I should say, and then following the loved one in spirit and sharing their story, their message, and their love for my clients. And then intuitive healing, I connect psychically and get that evidence of what you're going through in your life and sharing that along with loving guidance as well.
Those are very important things. What I love about how you talked about the mediumship, because that kind of leads into what our topic is today. You and I were having a conversation a while back about my granddaughter who is afraid of the dark and she's afraid of her rooms. And that started our conversation about this conversation in empowering with fear and going beyond the 5 senses. Do you want to talk a little bit about what that really means?
Yes, sure. So we're not alone in this. There's plenty of children and adults who are afraid of the dark. And speaking to that, I, as a child and an adult, experienced being afraid of the dark. And it's a sensation of feeling, for me, I can only express how I experience it, but it's a sensation that there's more eyes in the room than people can see, and you can feel the eyes. You can feel the energy as if there's like a magnetic pull in each pore of your body, that you just feel it, and it feels intense. And when we don't understand what it is, our mind is very imaginative and goes in different directions. And for me as a child, and hearing ghost stories and seeing creepy things in movies and all kinds of things, your mind doesn't know what to do with it. And it is the unknown, and we perceive it as scary. And just as somebody who isn't afraid of the dark, the unknown is always scary. And we don't know what it is. And we try to create a story around it. But that story is not always truth.
That's true, because the unknown is something obviously we don't have the answer to. So it's like our human mind has to say, how do I get through this? Or how do I become comfortable with this thing that I don't know. What are some of the ways that you help? Like, I know that we all face fears, but let's go with one sect and then the other, like children. What are some of the ways to help them to get through the fear of the dark, or wanting to be afraid of something under their bed or in their closet, that kind of thing?
Mm-hmm. So this is a really good question. And one thing is to provide some comfort and support, and then also a sense of empowering the child. Understanding, yes. So if, for example, if this was my child, yes, I understand you. You know what? I used to be afraid of the dark. Normalizing it. Normalizing is huge. So normalizing it, I totally understand. I used to feel that way. And you know what? The tools that worked for me were, first is just knowing that I am safe in this world, and it is dark. And when it is dark, we are able to feel more, because our senses, we don't see as much, we don't hear as much, because it's typically around bedtime. And then also our minds start going places. And so allowing for them to have more positive thinking around that time of night is helpful. And also just knowing that they're supported, and you hear them and you understand. And again, that normalizing, it goes a long way. It does go a long way. And then also quieting the mind through meditation is also supportive for children. If there's some meditation apps for children that are helpful, and also getting them a lot of exercise. So when it is time for bed, they're actually just so exhausted, they just want to sleep. That is also helpful for children who are afraid of the dark. And then if you're comfortable with it, as I am a medium and connect to spirit, allowing for them to have a relationship for their loved ones in spirit. So if you're comfortable with that with yourself, you have to be comfortable with yourself for you to share that with your child. So, you know, you feel empowered with that. And then they could feel like, oh, because like for me in my own personal journey, having my best friend who's in spirit was such a comfort, and just let them have that experience. Like, oh, you know, you have your grandma and your grandpa and your great grandmas and grandpas and your aunt, you know, they're all here, and you could feel it because you're a very sensitive young child, and what a gift that is. So empowering them, ooh, that's an awesome gift. A lot of people want that gift, and you have it. And wow, allow for them to show up and to support you and hold you. That can work. And
I think that's really important, because it is giving them comfort, but it's also giving them the knowledge that they have the power, and that they have the opportunity to talk to their loved ones on the other side. The interesting thing with my granddaughter, when I tell her, well, you have, like what you said, you know, you have your great grandparents, you have your great uncles, you have, you know, all these family members that are there, and they love you, and they're good, and they're light, and they're helping you. And she's like, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. So for her, it's like overwhelming, and no, because I feel like there's a sense of uncertainty or fear. I think a sense of that fear of, is this true? And is this something to be afraid of? Have you experienced that? I mean, I could feel that in their energy. It's that kind of torn between, but I don't really know. I guess it would be kind of like, I don't really know these family people. I know you, and I know, you know, these people in my family, but I don't know them. So is this okay that I'm interacting with that? You know what I mean?
One thing that I've found helpful is to describe their loved one in spirit. So this was your aunt. Your aunt was so funny and so loving, and she used to give these awesome gifts, and she used to be this way and that way, and so courageous and all of this. And so they start to like, wow, like that's my aunt, you know? So kind of telling their story, and and knowing that they're looking after you. If you ever need help or support, they're there for you and they love you. And then also saying, if you do feel that connection and don't want it, they don't want to scare you. They love you so much.
Yeah.
Just sharing, okay, that piece, that they have that power to say, oh, I don't want to feel this. And to allow for that comfort to be felt without having to be surrounded. They don't have to. They're in control always. And that connection is of love.
Right. And that's the important part of it. I think that really is. And the younger that you work with them, because usually children that are afraid of the dark start pretty young. Do you have any idea what starts that? What starts that fear in them?
That is a good question. Thinking about my own childhood, when did that start? I just know being a little girl and just being under my covers and scared and didn't want to be alone and felt that energy. But why? Why is it? There's theories out there that, when you're a child, you are more available to feel your, I believe it's our spirit self. We're all spirit people having a human experience. Right. And they were in spirit before we were, right? Because, they were there before. So maybe they're still experiencing their spirit self, but then in their logical brain don't have any context of how do I interpret this?
Right.
And it feels scary because it's the unknown.
Right.
So that's one theory.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense because we're not so jaded and worn, I guess you could say, but in our older years, we become more cynical, but they're still very open and like porous and ready to accept. So, and they don't understand what's going on.
Right. And then also I've read that their brains, they're in, I think it's the more in the theta brainwaves and not in, I think it's I don't know the scientific terminology. I think it's the beta brainwaves that are how us are just in, where you're thinking and figuring things out, but they're more in that theta brainwave or closer to it, where that's where we go when we practice mediumship. So
right.
Maybe that has something to do with it too.
I would imagine it does. It definitely. But one of the things I was thinking when we were talking the other day, we were talking about empowering beyond the five senses. What do you mean by the five senses?
So our sensing beyond the physical five. So with that is our knowings and our ability to have those knowings and to also to hear in our I guess your subjective hearing and the visuals and things like that, and also the sensations in our bodies. And so thinking about the child, or if whoever's listening has experienced that fear before, being able to, yes, feel the fear or feel the sensations, and also understanding it, but then not being afraid of it, and knowing that, yes, this is just part of who I am. And this is completely normal and actually very natural. And I feel everybody has it. Everybody is intuitive, and everybody has their spirit self. And it's just you connecting into that.
One of the things you just said that I think is really important that I hadn't thought of is that in this particular situation, when they're that young and they have that fear, it's really important to teach them how to work through fear. Where a lot of times you're like, go to bed, it's okay, don't worry about it. We kind of like push it aside. But one of the most important things with fear is breathing through it, and because if you were to unfold it, and teach them to unfold it at an early age, they can learn a lot about themselves at a very young age.
That's a great point.
Helping them process it through, because a lot of times we don't allow our children or our grandchildren to actually feel, why are you afraid? What is about this that's fearful? And breathe into that, and let's breathe into that together. That would be a great technique.
Absolutely. And supportive.
Yeah.
And then taking that a step further, allowing them to experience empowering opportunities, and getting up in front of the class and doing something courageous, being a risk taker, a healthy risk taker in sports, and like taking it a step further, so they're strengthening that part of themselves that feels, I can do it, and I am powerful, and I own this, and taking that a step further into their life. And I feel it's a muscle, and that you're not a victim. You're not a victim to feeling these feelings. No, this is part of who you are. And it's a great expression of who you are, because you get to understand, and this is something I would communicate too, you get to understand people in a new way, and be able to feel that love in all different directions.
Exactly. And that's very important. You went in two different directions. Now, way to go. Empowerment is a big thing, and not being a victim is such a big thing. And we can always tend to go into that. And I think that having tools to not do that. So the two directions I was going to go is, okay, we talked about children, but adults also fear going into the dark. What would you have to say to them and empowering them, and not, because that's going to go more into old patterns, old beliefs, old things like that are coming through that we also need to work through.
Right. And for the adult, because I was very afraid of the dark, and it would even get to the point where I was dreading the sunset, because I knew the dark was coming. And it was like, and that feeling of being even afraid of the sunset, which is something people think is so beautiful, and I do as well, but it was like, oh no, like the dark is coming and I don't want it. And then just that feeling of like the universe is, I don't feel comfortable even being in this universe, because it's so scary. And so it took like this, it's like an avalanche of feeling this way for me to be like, I need help. So I reached out to a friend, and she was really supportive of me, and she was actually an intuitive. And she walked me through my house and just gave me some empowering things to say, like, and something that I would like to share with adults who are feeling scared in their home. I really feel that our inner home reflects our outer home. So if you're feeling afraid, there's work to be done in our inner home. If you could go there with me. And so with your outer home, it's claiming it. It's claiming, this is my home, and this is where I feel safe, and this is where I raise my family. And so each and every room, going into that room and claiming it and making it yours, and just knowing that it's an empowering act, just claiming your space, and then also claiming your inner home simultaneously, and everything that doesn't serve me out, really making those verbal statements. And she walked me through this really empowering exercise. And it wasn't like a house clearing, it was like an empowerment statement. And it felt clearing, because it was something that I wasn't able to conceptualize on my own. I needed that support. And after that, I felt so much better. And I actually had a very mediumistic event that evening, and I wasn't afraid. And it was like, and I called her up and I told her everything, and she was like, wow. And I wasn't afraid, which was amazing. So I think that exercise would go a long way for any adult who is having those fears. And it's almost like you have to get to this point of enough of this. I'm ready. It's not like I want, because that's already within us. So I am ready to claim my space. This is my space. This is my home, and I'm going to occupy it.
Exactly.
And magic happens from there.
It does. It really does. And I love that, what you said. Sharon Lee was saying that she learned to ride a motorcycle at 53. And she was afraid when she was taking the lessons, but that she really just pushed through it. And that's really a part of the whole thing. It's like, for me, I get this chatter, right, that goes on about whatever I'm thinking about, or need to have this chatter. I don't know why. And finally, I was like you said, you get to that point where you're like, I'm done, and I'm going to take control of it. And that's the empowerment. That's saying, I'm not a victim to this anymore. I'm going to take control of my life. And so I started having those affirmations to know this is what it is, or no, this is what it is. And that has really helped me by leaps and bounds to be able to come into some kind of balance. So I agree with that. Very
yes. Helpful. Yes. And identifying that mind chatter of trying to pull you away from experiencing a new side of yourself, and knowing that battle might happen, but you're able to identify it. So it sounds like you had to really be aware of your inner dialogue, which is a huge step.
I think that we all go through that process, though. At whatever point we're at, we do that to some level. And then we just keep up leveling from that, don't you think?
Yes. So being aware, and then creating that gap of this is my thought. Am I going to hitch a ride with it and see where it goes? Or am I going to observe it and take a different route?
Exactly. Exactly. And I think the awareness, one of the things that I've learned is, and I was just talking to somebody about this, is having this patience with yourself, though, because wherever we are in life, we didn't just get there. We had to come to being where we're at. And it takes a process to get to understand these things, and it unfolds as you keep working on it.
And I feel that the biggest tool there is to be available for it.
Yes.
Like, the more you're available for a new experience, the more you are available to receive it and see all the possibilities.
And I'm wondering too, do you have any idea if people that are afraid of the dark tend to be more in the line of being a medium because they're more in tune with spirit? Where not everybody, we don't all come here with the same blueprint of the direction that we're going to go in life, right? So some are here to do certain things, some are here to do other things. But I'm wondering if people that actually have more of a heightened fear is more in line to that awareness to spirit and potentially being a medium at some point in their life.
So I feel that everybody could be, everybody has the availability for a mediumistic experience. And going back to my opinion, we're spirit people having a human experience. So, we are spiritual people. And so those that are afraid of the dark, I would say, because I can relate to that. And when I hear, people saying, "Oh, I'm so afraid of the dark," because they feel comfortable sharing it with me because of what I do. And it's I do feel that they might have that more open availability for it.
Yeah.
So empowering them to have it, they don't have to become a medium and doing readings for people, but allow for that to have a healing impact in their life, and taking on a journey of not being afraid of it, but seeing what type of love they can receive from it.
That's true. There's a lot of ways to practice mediumship. It's not that you have to be in a public arena or do private readings or anything like that, you can use it in many different ways because it's so healing.
Right, right.
Just connecting to your loved ones is healing.
Right. And just like you said, I think too, for them to connect to their loved ones and know that that was it. Like, I felt that. Like, that was real for me. And yeah, just like what you said about that. I love it.
I love Sharon Lee. Sharon, I'm going to have to go hang out with you because you got an interesting group of people around you. So she's saying that her daughter, they were rock climbers. And again, she asked them, were you petrified to climb rocks? Which I'm always intrigued with climbing rocks. So I think that would be a fabulous thing to do. But they said, yeah, they were petrified, but they just did it. And I think I love that she's bringing that up again, because it's showing what you said about there's certain things in life we're going to be afraid of. But to run from that fear, to bury that fear, isn't going to help it. You have to face that fear, because a lot of the times, and I'm sure you've experienced that, when we get to the other side, it's never as bad as we thought it was going to be.
Mm-hmm. Right. Right. That's such a great point. And it's something that if you're just stuck in fear, you're not going to experience the beauty that life has to offer and new paths. You know, if I just stuck in my fear, I wouldn't be doing mediumship. I would be numbing out and being afraid and, you know, like feeling like I always needed, you know, my husband to don't go on a surf trip, stay. I don't want to be alone, you know, like I am, you know, so there's a lot of gifts on the other side, a lot of wisdom on the other side of fear. And just like the rock climbing, you know, I imagine the sense of gratification and the sense of accomplishment. And with that, you know, what other ripple effects did that have for her family, you know?
Exactly. She was just,
and for her,
they climbed sheer cliffs. Sharon, I want to ask you this. Yeah, she said it did push them through to new accomplishments. Do they ever do that dancing? I don't know if anybody's seen this. I'm going way off track. I'm sure it's exhilarating. I saw this video on YouTube about these people that go up into sheer cliffs and they're tied off and they do a dance over each other because they're not dealing with gravity. And they do the most amazing thing. They're tied off, so they're not going to fall, but it was incredible. I just could imagine the exhilaration on that one. Okay, since I went off track, let's get back on track. You said something I thought was really interesting about being afraid of life. And I know a lot of people have that feeling that life is overwhelming and that it's so hard and they're afraid of it. What do you tell people and how do you help them through that feeling? And how did you get through that feeling?
Mm-hmm. So one thing to keep in mind, everybody is different. So what would be fearful or limiting for one person is something totally opposite for another. So it's understanding what are first wanting to overcome it. That's, I think, number one is the desire and readiness to experience a new reality in your life.
Yes.
So that's the first one, a willingness to move out of that mind frame. And then allowing for healing experiences and being a witness of your limiting beliefs and just seeing those fears and allowing for yourself to understand what is it inside me that I relate to that and triggers me so much, and like using your outside world as a mirror for your inner healing and our relationships. Like, this person annoys me so much. Well, what is it about that person that is reflecting within you? You know, what is it about you that is that annoying person? You know, like, you know, just doing those U-turns, as my therapist called it. So working with a therapist is huge. So doing those reflective U-turns and allowing, that's a really big part of empowerment, is these things are not trying to attack you or break you down. It's trying to empower you so you can uncover new wisdom within yourself. So thank you, man, that's really annoying, because I now understand a quality about myself and can move past. And next time this person, I'm not triggered by it because I've uncovered that part of myself. I've healed it. And then with bigger things, your job or your career, those things, what you can do that type of work with all of those aspects of our outside world. Mm-hmm.
It's very interesting because what you're talking about too is kind of a double-edged sword, because it's mirroring back into us, but we're also creating it at the same time. And that's an interesting way to look at it if you think about it, because what we think we create, right? But there's still those times where in our thinking, we're in this kind of middle zone. So we could be, because you're right, we're mirroring back what it is that we need to look at, or what we need to learn, or what we need to change. So it's like mirroring back, showing us when you're seeing something, this is what you need to work on. But we don't always see that, or we don't always believe that.
Mm-hmm. Right. So, so thinking, oh no, it's not me. That person is very annoying. Yeah. But knowing that that person has a wife that loves him and doesn't find him annoying at all, or this person has all their best friends and don't find this person annoying. So what is it about me that finds this person annoying? Because it's not a universal trait. So it's that willingness to see it. And that's the first part of really taking charge of your life and accepting the fact that, well, how could I not be perfect? But that we're not perfect. We are here to learn how to be an evolving soul. We are here to be in that experience to do that better. Mm-hmm. And yeah, that's a good point. Giving yourself grace and also feeling held when you go through that journey of that inner work, because things bubble up and feeling held. And I think that's where you can feel the support of spirit. Exactly. In those times. And knowing that everybody has this, everybody has things that they could understand about themselves, and they don't have to feel like they're on this Ferris wheel of looping. Like, why does this keep on happening to me? They could get off that Ferris wheel and experience a new ride. Because we are going to go from one Ferris wheel to the other, because that's what we're here to do. But we can definitely get on a better Ferris wheel and keep getting on a better Ferris wheel as we keep evolving in a more positive way. Yes, absolutely. And that's important. I want to go back to having self-compassion, though, because one of the things, and I know we've said it a couple of times, but I don't think you can say it enough. We get very hard on ourselves because we feel like we need to be a certain way. And a lot of people that I talk to, they're always about, I have to do this or I have to do that. And we really don't have to do anything except just keep going within and seeing what parts of us that we need to work on to do better and not force it. Don't you think? I love that you're bringing this up. So when I, in 2016, I had some big life events, and it shifted things up. And I had a corporate career and a side business, and I had this knowing that I needed to quit my corporate career. And I was somebody who, that was my identity, this career of mine. And when I became quiet, meaning I was stay-at-home mom, and then I was left with all of my thoughts, everything. I wasn't numbing out on my work and, all of that. And so having that compassion and knowing that it's something that has supported me was like, I am enough and I am worthy no matter what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. And everybody else is the same. like, it doesn't matter what we do, we are still whole and complete and worthy. And it doesn't matter if we are, making X amount of money, or, doing all these things, or looking a certain way, or whatever. It does. All of those things are outside of us. And knowing that you are worthy no matter what you're doing, no matter who you are. That was a huge thing for me. And it's still a work in progress.
I think it is for all of life, though. I really do.
Oh, yeah.
I think we get better in some ways, and then we find there's other ways that we need to dig a little deeper to see that we're still in that worthiness category and not really accepting who we are. And I think that goes to judging other people as being better, putting people on a pedestal. We have it in our society where there's this big divide between the us's and the them's, but yet we're all perfect in the things that we're doing because it's what we chose to do. And if we can remember that, that's the key. We chose to do what it is that we're here to do. And it's when we start like comparing ourselves. And I know for me, I started about a month ago, a challenge for myself to see how much of what I do I really care about what somebody else thinks. And I was shocked at how much that affected my life. It's crazy.
Wow. What have you learned? I'm curious.
That a lot of things that I do, a lot of things that a lot of people do is based on what is somebody going to think of me, or how is this going to look for somebody else? How is it going to appear on the outside? Or is somebody going to judge me? Or, I'm affected. Like we go into the self-pity or the victim mode about being less than, or nobody likes me, or, the stories that we all tell that we had when we were in school. And so by challenging myself, I became more aware of it. And it's been and then I used what you were saying as have affirmations then when something would creep up and I would be, nope, I'm not going to go that way. Nope, that is not the truth. And trying to change those patterns of thinking.
Beautiful. Yeah, I think that's a great challenge. I think everybody could benefit from that challenge.
I think that when we're aware of it, then we actually realize how much of our life is really run by that. And because there's, we have commercials, we have billboards, we have all kinds of advertising, even on YouTube or Facebook, we're being advertised to. Whatever we're looking at, you're doing those ads and all of your stuff. And it's bombarding you to think, I have to be something other than I am. If I have this, then I'm going to be better at what I do. Or if I wear this and people are going to see me as a successful person. If we don't have it inside of us, it doesn't really matter what you're doing on the outside.
Yeah. And it makes me think too, what we're feeding our minds, like what you're saying with commercials, and what shows are you watching, and, what are you ingraining in your mind, and, your nerve endings firing and wiring, what am I wanting to prune away, and what am I wanting to strengthen? And just like you said, I'm only going to I can't watch scary shows or movies or anything. I don't want to. Why would I want that? So I just don't. I want uplifting things, or things that can expand my mind, and same thing going back to the children, just what kinds of things do you want to strengthen in their minds and expand them in that way? So yeah, it's like a mental diet, a healthy mental diet.
And I love that Sharon said it does come with age. It does. But as you're doing your inner work, I think that you become more and more aware of who you really are. And then you become more and more aware of different areas that you're still succumbing to that kind of thinking of, what is somebody going to think about me? It's so bizarre that even at 50 or 60, that you could act like you did when you were in school, like, oh, what are the girls all going to think, or whatever it is. We all know, we've all been there. But it's so much a core of community, of wanting to be accepted. That's the crazy thing about it. And I think we're still influenced way more than we even know. I know I was shocked I was. I have a pretty strong personality. Like, I can easily tell somebody to go take a hike. But, you know, we still, all of us have that weakness. All of us have that humanness that we don't want to be hurt, or we don't want to look like the outsider, or we don't want to look like the bad guy. Or, you know, I just faced that a couple of days ago where I had to make a decision, and it was like, you know, I'm going to look like the bad guy. But I remember for me through that process, I got to a moment where it's like, what would it really be like if you could just make any decision without any kind of effect to it? I mean, what would you do? How would you change your life? What decision would you make if you freely did what you just really wanted to do without any attachment?
Amazing.
Wouldn't that be freeing?
Very freeing. And it's something that is, you know, I feel that if you are tapped in alignment with what's in your highest good, I feel that what's in your highest good is in the highest good of the universe and for everybody else.
Yeah.
And so allowing for, you know, what's good for me is great for everybody else too.
Exactly. And I think we're taught not to trust that because it would be in the category of selfish or self-centered. You're just worrying about you. It's like it goes so beyond just that human worry about myself, you know, or what I want. Usually it's coming from a collective of the whole, not from just the me.
And then the other interesting part about it is that, you know, thinking what you think that they're thinking about you, and which would be another mirror exercise.
Absolutely.
You know, it's all fun.
And that's the important thing, is to look at life as being fun. I know I sometimes, because I like to, in my business in Reaching Unlimited and all the aspects, I like to always say, thanks for coming to play with me, or do you want to come play with me? It's like, let's go back to that childlike way of thinking where life is fun. And if we could see it that way and live that way, then life will be fun.
Yes, amen to that. Yeah.
But you said something else I think was very interesting that I've seen a lot is people that want to soothe themselves. What word did you use? By numbing out. Thank you. Numbing out. That's a big way of avoidance. You want to talk a little about that? Numbing out. I love that.
Well, I mean, something that, I mean, we can all relate to it, is just wanting to distract ourselves from our reality, not wanting to see the reality of things, putting on the blinder, or, you know, people do that in so many ways with drugs and alcohol, or with their screens, drama, and just understanding what are your cues. What's my cue? And I know that I'm trying to numb out, and then understanding, you know, what is it that I really need right now? What does my body need? What does my mind need? And understanding what your needs are and connecting with it. Maybe it's you need to sleep. Maybe it's you have to have that difficult conversation, and it's time to actually show up for that rather than trying to distract yourself or procrastinate on something you're needing to do. So it's just creating some space for you to show up for yourself in a bigger way. And then also understanding what is numbing out versus what's entertaining, what is fun. And I think that could be a inner journey in and of itself. And then also what habits are unhelpful. What am I ingraining in my brain that would be unhelpful? What would be healthy? What would be unhealthy? And another thing I really like is instead of doing what makes you happy, doing what you are happy about.
Yeah.
So it's not chasing that
Mhm.
instant gratification. It's actually connecting within, understanding what you are happy about, and
Mhm.
taking action from that deeper place.
Mhm.
So you're not chasing anything, you are actually living it. And that happiness is from an intrinsic place.
Mhm.
But then also understanding the difference of the two, where, okay, I'm choosing to do something that makes me happy. I know I'm going to get the instant gratification and I'm okay with that. Then
Mhm.
do it.
Mhm.
But if you're chasing happiness, no, it has to be from a deeper place.
And that is really well said. I love that. Chasing happiness is a habit, and it is definitely a diversion from being with self. And being with self is the most important thing we can do, and getting to know self, because if you don't take that time to really know who you are and what really makes you happy, then you're always going to be chasing the air. You're always going to be chasing the nothingness. And that's the tragedy in all of
Mm-hmm.
of addictions or, avoidances that we pick up along our way.
Mm-hmm. Right.
That's very
Right. And yeah, and giving yourself, that compassion through it all.
Yeah, I really
Mm-hmm.
think that that's one of the things that we don't teach our children enough, is to be compassionate to ourselves when we make a mistake, or if we're off track somehow and we need to come back on track, or whatever it is, to really help children to have a first reaction of being okay. I'm okay with myself. I'm okay within myself. I'm okay with mistakes, because mistakes, and I grew up in a time where it was like, you made a mistake and holy camole, that was not a good thing. And
Mm.
mistakes are how we learn how to get through life. That's how we get to know who we are.
Right. And just normalizing those mistakes.
Yeah.
And, oh, I made a mistake. I'm still worthy. I'm still 100% worthy for everything good in life. And yeah. And it makes me feel like being your own parent,
Mhm.
as an adult, like parenting yourself in that way and giving yourself that support when there is a mistake. And then obviously with the children as well, oh, that accidents happen. And then what solution is available to support that mistake moving forward, and then, okay, I made a mistake and what do I do now? Mm-hmm.
Sharon brought up a good point, and I am with you, Sharon. I also am very concerned with children who think that instant gratification, which is a real problem in our society, especially with Amazon these days. I mean, they're now going to fly our stuff to us. Are you kidding me? When we ordered something, when I was a kid, you waited 2 weeks or 3 weeks, however, depending on where it came from. But instant gratification is a real problem with kids, for sure, in these days.
Mm. Yeah. I mean, it's something that is, we don't understand. We're not them, and what that's doing, and what that reinforces, and what their lives, what unfolds with them. But if you are wanting to exercise delayed gratification, there's lots of things to try to do for them. I think, for those toys on Amazon, having them earn their money and being able to save for it, and then understanding the value of money, and then you can easily just go ahead and blow it on whatever you want, or let it grow and then have something that you desire that would be more expensive. So I think as a parent, allowing for them to understand both components of that, and then I feel like an element of discipline is also important, meaning doing doing what needs to be done and should be done, even if you don't want to do it. So like just, and I think as a parent, like me showing up in that way, okay, I gotta mow the lawn. I don't want to do it, but I'm gonna do it, you know, rather than just, I don't know what the instant gratification would be, maybe hiring a gardener or something like that. But I enjoy being outside and I really love it. I feel good about my landscaping and gardening. So it's interesting, like those things that we feel good about, sometimes it's hard to actually take action with it. There's like a sense of resistance, like today, like mowing my lawn, like, oh, I didn't really want to, but when I was doing it, I was like, I can't wait to, you know, do, you know, all this other stuff. But it's like that initial, like, do it. And so I think that's something we could support our children with, you know, I know you see that would be a really important act to do, but actually doing it takes a little nudging and supporting them through that mental process and doing something that they feel good about.
Yeah. And that's important. And I love how you said we don't know how it's going to affect them, because I think you're right. I think that children today are developing for a new world we don't even know about. It's not even here yet, the direction that this whole society is going. And I think that we evolve and always have evolved as human beings to what we actually need to be to keep continuing on. So I feel like they are going to have a better grasp on a lot of things in society than we actually did. And that's going to keep going on. So you're right. I agree with that we don't really know how it's going to unfold. But, and I know I was talking to a friend the other day who said that her son was really into video games, and she's afraid that it's rewiring his brain to be, to not be sane, to not be in a good way. And I'm really not sure about that, because it's also helping them to be more on target and active and fast thinking and quick. You know what I mean? So it's going to be interesting to see how all this unfolds in the future.
Right.
We just don't know.
We just don't know.
Yeah. But we also, one of the things that we learn through mediumship is to surrender and trust. And I think that happens in our world too. When it goes forward, we have to trust that it's all going in the direction it's supposed to go in perfect timing.
Yep. Trusting in that. And then also the common messages of connecting with loved ones. You know, our relationships are things that, like connecting with people. I know right now we're social distancing physically, but we can still connect emotionally to each other. And I think that's something, an element, like you said, with the children, with that kind of thing, but allowing them to build relationships with themselves and with other people. And I think that would be a really positive thing as well. And then just also knowing from where our great grandparents came from, they think, wow, I mean, you have diapers, we had to hand wash everything, you know, like, and imagine like all the things that we're able to do. And we can be more available, like we can be more available for our own inner healing because we have a lot of things that are quicker to access.
Yeah.
So we could use that as okay, you know, this is actually a fueling thing rather than a debilitating thing. And how we want to interact with those games.
Yeah. You cracked me up with the diapers, because I was talking to my granddaughter the other day, and I don't know how we got on the subject of diapers, but I told her something about a cloth diaper, and she was like, what? I was like, yeah, that's what they used to use, is cloth diapers. She was like, oh, and she had no concept of cloth diapers. It's so funny. One of the things I heard the other day, which I actually thought was brilliant, is that social distancing isn't really the correct term, because what we're actually doing right now is socializing more than we have when we were all working and doing our normal lives, that we're actually spending more time with one another and connecting with each other through all of these mediums. And that really all we're doing is isolating ourselves from each other, because we're social vocalizing, we're communicating, we're connecting with each other and uplifting one another and help. I mean, there's more on the YouTube right now than ever before.
So like physical distancing.
Physical
rather
distance.
than
Yeah.
the social distancing, right?
I thought it was odd when it's kind of started. We were just going into like week 3 or 4, and it was like, I always had this video camera that I've used. It works okay, but I needed to upgrade it for another reason. I could not find, and you still cannot find a webcam anywhere. There are no webcams because everybody is doing their thing, doing their media, doing their thing. It's crazy.
Yeah, they're connecting, and and it allows for, like you said, connecting with your loved ones in your home, if you have loved ones that you're sharing your home with, and and then also Zoom appointments with your good friends from around the country or the world. And yeah, it does offer a different experience and different ways to connect.
It does. And we really need to be doing that to keep our spirits up and to keep, I mean, we don't know where this is all going or how long it's going to go or how it's all going to pan out, but we do know that we can connect with each other and we can keep encouraging each other and bringing, good, positive things like good news. What is that? Simply Good News or whatever, John, whatever his name's doing. But anyway, it's this kind of thing that I think is going to have a long impact on our society because we are coming together as a society to encourage and help each other. It's really encouraging.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, back to the very beginning of all of this, one of the things that we had talked about was about mediumship, and everybody does have the ability to this. And one of the things that I've done is talk to a few people lately that have lost their loved ones. And that's one thing to remind people, that we all do have the ability to connect, and it just takes practice and it takes patience to do that. Would you have any tips or helpful information or guidance that would help people to connect back to their loved ones again?
Yes. So I like to say that it's an availability. We're all available for it. So it's availability rather than ability. Like we can just be available. It's like opening up this part of your heart and just allowing them to hold your heart and to feel that closeness in your heart and to create that space for that connection. And I know that loved ones are a thought away, they're there, and allowing for yourself to be available for that connection. And what I mean by that, you're not seeking it, you're receiving it. And it's that is deep, seeking versus receiving. But being able to receive it without thinking, okay, it has to look a certain way, or this connection must be a certain way. It's unique to everybody, how they connect and how their spirit loved ones show up for them. And also allowing for yourself to move through the grieving process and allow for your own inner healing to be had and to get that support for your grieving process. So for one, it is a journey, and but knowing that the more you lean into it, the more you can become more available for that connection, and knowing that they're always there. And there's some meditations you can do, and there's lots of tools out there to support the individual wanting to connect. And but a really quick tool would be just meditation and strengthening that part of your meditation muscle where you can separate your thoughts and your actions and allow for like everything in your mind to just drop into your heart and just allow and to reveal. And then if you also want to dive into your spirit self and just knowing your spirit self is in spirit and you guys are all together, you just have this physical body and they don't, you know? So like, it feels, I mean, that's so simple, but allowing for yourself to connect into your spirit self and knowing that you guys are so together.
Yes.
And so it takes, it's hard to just wrap it up with some tips and tools, but there are experiences you can offer yourself with those concepts.
Well, I think that you hit upon really good points. One is, just being patient with yourself, and that we all go through our process in our own time. And I think it's just being kind and not pushing it. It's really being patient with yourself was a big part of it, and loving yourself, because we all heal and move in different ways for different reasons. So we have to allow ourselves to go through our own process, not compare it to anybody else's, and just allow it to flow through us in the time and the way. Because if you do that, if you stop that from happening, then you're only going to have to do it later, and you're creating more problems in your life. So it's really better to just have that kindness and compassion and love for yourself to go through the process the way you need to go through that process.
That's a huge point.
And
totally.
Really trust. That's the other one.
Yeah. Trust is so huge, and trusting that, just trusting in yourself, and like, I think you said that beautifully, like having that compassion and care for yourself, and just knowing that your spirit loved one loves you unconditionally, and just like you love them, and feeling like you're not able, some people might feel, I can't connect, but just knowing like they love you, they just want you to move through your healing process. They want you to go through that, so you can have that wisdom on the other side and have that healing.
Right.
And so just knowing that you're supported all around, and not beat yourself up. And then also noticing your inner dialogue around it, saying, I can't do this. I'm becoming available for this, and I'm allowing myself to be available for this. And, but then also, like you said, being kind to yourself throughout.
Because you can't push it. And one of the things that I see so often is people like, stop it. I can't, I have to be stoic, or I have to get through this, or I have to look in a certain way, or whatever your dialogue, like you said, in your head is. When you do that, you're stopping yourself from really blossoming into the true you that is needing to experience all of the feelings that you experience, the anger, the frustration, the sadness, the despair. All of those things have to flow through you, because they're all real and they're all important to unfold in. So that's the important part. So don't rush it, don't push it, don't judge it. Just be kind to yourself.
Yeah, right. The receiving, the becoming available, rather than the seeking, which is the grasping and wanting to change things. And, that energy behind that, it feels icky. So allowing for yourself to be relieved from that, and just allow.
Yeah. Do you have any last words that you would like to leave people with about the fear of the dark, the fear of the unknown, the fear of the unfamiliar, which is what we talked about too?
Yes. Some, just how I would want to share, if you are somebody who relates to this fear of the unknown and fear of the dark, I feel like everybody does. But like you said, like having fun, like having just an availability for possibilities of what's on the other side, and knowing and trusting that you are held, and that you're held with loved ones in spirit, and you're held by the universe. And on the other side is always love.
Yes.
And then knowing that if you are faced with a challenging event in your life, using it as a way to empower yourself, and okay, how I like using that as a way for you to uncover new aspects of yourself and new wisdom within yourself, rather than looking at it as something that is trying to push you down. Being like, thank you, now I get to try this. And you thinking and perceiving your life as like that video game, like as a video game, like how am I going, okay, this is happening, what if I did this, and let's just do it. And just allowing for that unfolding of what's on the other side. And it's beautiful and it's loving, and you are supported. And if anybody would love support or need support with it, feel free to reach out. I love supporting people through this type of journey too.
I love that. You know what you reminded me of? I don't know. I watch Grace and Frankie. I don't know if everybody knows, it's on Netflix. It's a great show. But one of the things that they did, and it was a thing, I think it's a thing, is they had the yes day. And so I know in the beginning of my journey, it was like, okay, I'm going to have the yes time period. It was like, I just say yes to spirit, just yes, yes, yes. I cannot say no. And I really feel that that's something we can do with ourselves too, is give ourselves yes days. It's like, I'm going to have this yes day that it is going to be everything that is going to be in my best and biggest and highest good. It's the yes day. I'm going to say yes to myself. I'm going to say yes to the things I need. I'm going to say yes to loving myself. I'm going to say yes to spirit. Just have a yes day. Everything.
I love it.
No no's allowed.
And allowing yourself to sit in that what if on the other side of this is completely loves me, and what if on the other side of this is complete joy. And if I was too afraid to move into this, I wouldn't be a medium. My life I wouldn't have quit my corporate career and spent quality time with my children, like all these things. If I was too afraid, you block more beautiful things happening in your life. So having that yes, I love that. Yes, I'm gonna do it.
Yes day. Everybody have a yes day. Thank you so much for being with us and sharing your time with us and sharing your wisdom. And I hope that this has been helpful for parents to, help their children through, even like someone had said, Sharon, I think said, they see people. There's certain kids that actually see spirit, and some feel spirit. And some just know they're there. And those are all real. So help them through that. So thank you for your tips and your advice on that.
Oh, thank you, Joanne. Thank you very, very much. This has been a pleasure, and I just love sharing and talking with you. And
thank you.
And just to everybody who's listening, much love to you and your journey. And I'm excited to support and to share.
Oh, thank you. And yes, thank you, everybody, for your comments. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for adding to this fun. And being here with us. And I hope to see you next time. So everybody take care. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.